Hello and welcome back to the TVBinges.com Pilot Roundtable, a Southgate Media Group podcast. I'm Kyle Tremblay, the editor of TVBinges.com, and I am joined as always by a fellow TV Binges writer. She's ready for the big church bingo night. It's Olivia Richards. Hello.
That's what every Friday night is like.
That's right. That is both of our Friday activities.
Absolutely.
Head down to the church, participating in the raffle, and playing some bingo. So, we are talking about ABC's new single-cam sitcom, The Real O'Neills. Olivia, what did you think?
I don't know, I have kind of mixed feelings. I think there was enough there that it can kind of grow from where it started. I think, it's any kind of like formulaic, single cam comedy, but I think it had a really, really solid cast and enough there that there was something that did actually make it stand out.
Yeah. The premise of the show is that a sort of devout Catholic family who is very much into the sort of church image of themselves, especially the mother, played by Martha Plimpton, has their sort of foundation shook as everyone in the as the parents reveal that they're getting divorced. That one of the kids is anorexic, the other kid is like a kleptomaniac, and of course the sort of main child, played by Noah Galvin, reveals that he's gay. And that's what happens in this pilot, and then assuming the series just sort of spirals from there. You said that there was something about this that made it stand out. What can you put your finger on what that was?
I just think the overall tone of the show, I think, just kind of made it in that, like, it obviously is a very progressive show. If you know, the executive producer, actually the founder of the It Gets Project. So I think adding that element, you can tell that there's a lot of compassion and kind of care with how the show kind of sculpted its characters. And kind of, the undertone of the show, and that it kind of has that warmth to what it's trying to do, which I really appreciate, especially in a comedy where, like, sometimes you have shows where you can tell that the comedy doesn't really care about the characters that it's using, and I don't think this is happening there, which I really appreciated.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to sum it up. And the actor who plays the child who comes out as gay is actually gay himself. Mm-hmm. So that's that's actually kind of a refreshing casting thing. There's a lot of instances where, various groups are portrayed by actors who are not members of those groups, and a lot of times it goes awry. So that's a refreshing change, and I actually didn't know that about the creator of the show, but it does make sense because the show is dealing with a lot of sort of thorny issues. And it doesn't really stumble on them. It doesn't, this could have went badly in a lot of ways, and it doesn't go badly in any of those ways. Having said that, I don't know if it goes well. Just as a sitcom, this pilot is I would describe it as kind of a disaster, like in terms of, like, not in terms of like the tone, which I agree with you was good, or the acting, which I think was good and with some standout performances, but just the plotting of this pilot is a mess, and it sort of exhibits the what we see from a lot of sitcom pilots. We saw this from a Superstore on NBC, where there's this like ridiculous ramp up to some crazy event at the end as music plays. Like in this case, they're all stealing a canoe. Like, I don't know if I need that necessarily. I don't like the whole style of comedy where they're all their secrets, they accidentally spill them all to the entire church, and then out of shame they steal the canoe and run away. Like, I don't know if that works for me, like, as comedy. That's not really like it's a little bit broad, I think, for a show that is dealing with some serious things, and is kind of, at least to that point, was kind of buttoned down. Like, I don't need that right off the bat. I understand why they do it, and I understand why they feel like they need to do it, but I don't know if I need, like, the manic canoe chase sequence in the first episode.
No, I completely agree, and I think that was sort of my number one, kind of concern and complaint with the show, I guess, or criticism, I think would be the better word for it. But I just thought it was very busy. Like, I kind of wish they had just focused on one of the things they had brought up. Like, I get the premise of the show is that, like, oh, they're this devout Catholic family who, like, all of a sudden they want to, you know, become more real. So all of them let out their flaws. But, like, if it had just been that, you know, the mother and father were getting a divorce, or, like, it was just that, you know, the son is gay, or it was just that the other son is anorexic, or it's just the daughter is a kleptomaniac. I kind of would have really liked that if they had just targeted in on one of those and made that the focal point, as opposed to every single one of the family members being completely dysfunctional. Like, I get what they're trying to do there, but I thought it just kind of made it very kind of scatterbrained and a little bit clunky.
I completely agree with that. And I think in some ways that actually, and maybe this was intentional, I haven't really thought it through in this regard, but it kind of lessened the impact of the kid coming out, because that kid was very likable. And there were some very silly bits in this episode involving him, but in general, he seems like a likable kid and a good actor, and that character seems to be pretty well drawn. But when you have this ridiculous scene where they're all in, like, the back room of a church, revealing their deepest, darkest secrets all, like, in succession, it all becomes, this is, like, 15 minutes after we met these characters. It's just all, like, a little bit much. You know, it's a little, like, I don't know. It seems a little too, like, quick to have that, like, all happen at once, when we're just getting to know the characters, and suddenly everything we know about the characters no longer applies. And obviously, like, the show is about them living this sort of post bombshell reality. And I appreciate that the entire show isn't about the kid coming out as gay. That there's other stuff going on here, but I don't know. To use your word, it felt very busy. The plotting of this pilot was very, very busy, and I got the sense that the show wasn't entirely confident that it could function as a single cam, and a lot of the jokes in this pilot were kind of like multicam jokes for me. Like, they were kind of big studio audience laugh jokes that don't really play in a single cam, especially one in which we just met the characters.
No, I completely agree, and especially because the show is called The Real O'Neills.
Yeah.
Again, it's a network comedy, so I'm like, okay, like, you know what, you're not going to have, you know, something that's going to be, like, you know, completely, like, authentic and, you know, something that you're going to be, like, you know, 1,000%, you know, like, drawn in by. But at the same time, it's like, when you have so much going on and so many, you know, different plot lines happening with each character, it kind of runs the risk of getting really contrived really, really quickly. And that was kind of my concern going in. And I saw, like, little glimpses of it. I think there is enough happening with, you know, just the talent in the cast, and, you know, with the kind of, you know that it's obviously backed by producers who really, really care about the direction of the show and care about the characters. So I think it has, you know, kind of that support. But at the same time, it's like, if it stays where it's going, I kind of worry about it, you know, being really forced.
Yeah, I think it is the biggest problem for this show, because I agree with a lot of the nice things you're saying, which is that there is something here, and that there's definitely something behind the scenes that clicks with this show, where the people. It's a show that's about a kid coming out that understands coming out. And that's rare. You know, a lot of times we talk about shows where they're about something that they don't understand. And this is a show that does, I think, have an understanding of that. The problem is, I don't know if it's funny. I don't, you know, it's ultimately going to have to function as a sitcom. And it's going to have to be, I mean, it can get by on being charming, but eventually it's going to have to be funny. And if its big joke is going to be a kid trying to flush condoms down a toilet, I don't know if that's gonna work. I don't know if that could be your big laugh. I don't know if stealing a canoe is gonna work. You know, I don't. There was, like, amidst, like, the many positive elements of this pilot, the jokes were dumb and broad and not very funny. And that, I think, is sort of easy to sweep under the rug when you're talking about the sort of social consciousness of the show. But if this thing's going to last for more than a season, it's going to really have to figure out what's funny about this situation and work on being that.
I completely agree. And I think that's kind of, you know, what I was saying before, where it's like there's enough there that, you know, obviously it's a pilot, so, you know, they're kind of just finding, you know, their tone, and they're finding kind of what works for the show in general. But I'm hoping that, you know, as it progresses through the season, that they kind of find their pacing and find their footing and kind of find that kind of sweet spot with the comedy. Because I think there is enough there that it can be a really, really good show. They just have to, you know, find where it is.
Yeah, and I have gone way too long without mentioning that the father, the husband, is played by none other than Stan Rizzo from Mad Men. which
Yes.
I mean, holy cow, Stan! I didn't even when I saw him, I was like, oh, I know who that is. But then I couldn't think of it because he didn't have the big beard. And then I had to look him up on IMDb, and I was like, oh my god, Stan Rizzo is back. Stan, man. So anyway, so I am very much, and Martha Plimpton is very good too, and so I am very much giving the show the benefit of the doubt, at least when it comes to casting, because I want Stan Rizzo to succeed in every possible way. So yeah, I mean, overall, like this pilot did a good rating. It did a 1.8 in the demo with 6.3 million viewers, which is one of the not a hit, but one of the better comedy premieres we've seen numbers wise. ABC has a sort of stable of single camera comedies. This one actually reminds me a lot of The Goldbergs, which is set in the 80s, but sort of has a similar setup. And I wonder if it sort of tones down the manicness of this pilot a bit, if it won't settle into being a sort of Goldbergs-like family sitcom. So do you think, Olivia, that this one will be canceled quickly, make it through a season, or renewed for next season?
At the moment, I think this is going to make it through at least its first season.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm going to go ahead and give this a renewed for next season. I think ABC probably likes where this pilot's head is at, if not necessarily where the comedy is right now. And the ratings again were pretty good. And I think there's a lot of potential here with this cast. And again, I think if they adjust the comedy of the show, which I mean, look, a lot of pilots have done, and there's no shame in making a bad comedy pilot. As I always say, like Parks and Rec has a terrible pilot and is my favorite show ever. So there's, you know, if there's one thing you can do, it's sort of change your comedic sensibilities a bit and adjust the comedic alchemy a bit. But you can't manufacture a good cast, and you can't manufacture a sort of understanding of your subject matter. And I think this show does have both. So whether it actually lives up to that potential or not is an open question, but at least the potential is there with this one. So on that note, do you think it's going to, or not do you think, but what is your final verdict? Thumbs up or thumbs down on The Real O'Neills?
For me, kind of despite a few kind of, you know, rough patches in the show, obviously it's the pilot. Again, I think there's enough there that this can be something really, really awesome. So I'm definitely giving it 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, I'm very much on the fence for this one, but I'm going to give it a tepid thumbs up.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. I'm maybe our February break softened me up a bit, but it does seem like there was enough here, and there's enough with the characters to at least get it to where I'm interested in seeing it going forward. And then the presence of Stan pushed me over the top to give it the thumbs up. If he grows the beard, I feel like him regrowing the Stan Rizzo beard would pretty much solve every problem the show has. So
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, right off the bat, we're right there. All right, so you've been listening to the Pilot Roundtable, a TVBinges.com and Southgate Media Group production. You can listen to all of our episodes on iTunes, where you can rate and review us. We'd appreciate that. Or find us at SouthgateMediaGroup.com. Follow Olivia on Twitter at RichardsOlivia, and me on Twitter at KyleLovesTV. Until next time.